morning. Good morning, everybody. Hopefully you guys are having a wonderful morning and enjoying the holiday season. I have definitely done that and enjoy the time with family. Sorry, this morning it has been constant. We found out. I think the Ethernet cable that I have plugged into my main computer in here doesn't work, so that's fun to find out that it's going in and out right before you're hopping on a live stream. So if there are any issues, I apologize. But anywho, uh, without further ado, we'll go ahead and get started. So, if you are new here, we talk about preparedness, self reliance, seeing the world as it really is, not how the mainstream media paints it. And so, today I have a story that is really going to make your blood boil. It's a perfect example of why we focus on taking care of ourselves and why we deeply mistrust bloated government systems. While you are out there working hard, paying your taxes, putting food on your table, and trying to build a secure future for your family outside of the system itself is being looted wholesale. We're talking about a massive, coordinated fraud scheme involving daycares. But here's the kicker: these weren't daycares cutting corners. These were daycares that, in many cases, didn't even have children in them. So they were defrauding the government. This is a local YouTuber in Minnesota, Nick Shirley. And so they were defrauding the government, which means they were in effect defrauding you to the tune of millions of dollars. So let's get into it and let's get into the story of what actually happened. So here's how the grift actually worked. The government, through various state and federal programs, offers subsidies for childcare for low income families. It's a massive pot of money meant to help people get to work. But investigators actually uncovered a network of providers who saw this pot of money not as a service, but as a unguarded bank vault. All right, this is not the video I wanted. So let me find the video here. Nick Shirley, because he is awesome. All right, here we go. This is what I wanted. So, investigators actually uncovered a network of providers, quote unquote, who saw this pot of money as a service, but as an unguarded, not as a service, but as an unguarded bank vault. These are so-called daycare owners who would enroll hundreds of children into their programs on paper. They had names, social security numbers, birth dates. They even submitted complex billing sheets to the state every month, claiming that these kids are in their care for 8 to 10 hours a day. And the government, they just cut them checks. Automatic deposits, hundreds of thousands of dollars a month to single locations. But here's the reality on the ground is that when investigators finally got suspicious and actually physically went to these locations during peak hours, 9 a.m., 10 a.m. on a Tuesday, what did they find? Children? No. Screaming kids? Nope. They found centers that were supposed to have 50, 60, 100 kids present completely empty. And you can see in Nick Shirley's video here that they're actually going to these daycare centers and they are completely empty. It's pretty crazy. Yeah, they go to these places, there's no kids, and they end up getting like trying to get kicked out by some of them. I think the police get involved. It's pretty entertaining. So maybe, one staff member was sitting there at the desk playing with their phone, but the lights were off in the playrooms. There were no toys on the floor, no coats on the hooks. They were billing for ghost children. They were stealing, supposedly, millions of dollars for babysitting air. In some cases, the children they were billing for were actually in school elsewhere, or out of the country even, or simply didn't exist at those addresses. The scale of the deception required coordination, recruitment of parents to provide identities, and a level of brazen confidence that nobody was watching. And they were right. For years, nobody was watching. Until now. And that's what brings us to why we talk about this on a preparedness channel. So, this isn't just about some crooks getting rich. This is about the absolute fragility and incompetence of the system that the majority of society relies upon. If the government cannot even verify that a building was supposedly housing 100 children actually has any children in it before handing over millions of your tax dollars, what else aren't they checking? We prep because we know systems fail. This system is failing right now. While things are relatively normal, it is bloated and it is easily exploited and it is bleeding cash. Every dollar stolen by these fraudsters in Minnesota is a dollar taken from a taxpayer who earned it and diverted from families who actually needed the help. It's a lose-lose for decent people and a massive win for criminals who know how to game the bureaucracy. And this is why we build our very own safety nets. This is why we rely on community, family, and our own two hands. Because when you outsource your security to a faceless bureaucracy that cuts checks for empty rooms, you are building on sand. So let me know in the chat what you think about this level of waste, and does it actually surprise you anymore? So, and we will cut over to the next one. I honestly was super surprised when I heard this story, and honestly, I can be completely frank, I was even more surprised when I heard they were doing something about it. I, I just lose so much faith in the government, sometimes, that it surprised me when I found out they were actually doing something. So, yeah, yeah, we'll see. But anywho, we'll see what happens. Supposedly, I saw last night that they were actually cutting the money off and that they were like investigating these officially. So that's good. It wasn't just Nick Shirley who was investigating it. So that's great news. So, the next story that I want to talk about is Ukraine. So if you think the situation in Eastern Europe was winding down or that a peace deal meant things were going back to normal, you need to listen to this very carefully. So we've been tracking the headlines, so you don't have to. And something massive just dropped that shifts the entire landscape of this conflict. For years, the one absolute red line that was supposed to keep us out of World War III was no American boots on the ground. We send money, we send missiles, we send tanks, but we do not send American sons and daughters to stand on the border of Russia. Well, as of yesterday morning, that red line is being erased. So Russian reports confirm that Ukrainian President Zelensky is now explicitly discussing the deployment of U.S. troops into Ukraine with President Trump. This isn't just a rumor. Zelensky himself stated, "We want this. We would like this." He is pushing for American soldiers to be stationed in Ukraine as a security guarantee to enforce a potential ceasefire. They are calling it a peacekeeping mission. But let's use the language of reality and not politics. Placing American soldiers in a combat zone between two warring nations isn't peacekeeping. It's setting a tripwire. Think about the mechanics of this. Trump is saying that they are 95% of the way to a deal, but the devil is in that last 5%. If that deal involves U.S. soldiers standing guard in the Donbass or along a demilitarized zone and a single rogue mortar shell lands on a U.S. platoon, we are no longer in a proxy war. We are in a direct shooting war with a nuclear power. And Zelensky knows this. This is why he wants them there. An American presence guarantees that if Russia attacks again, the United States is forced to fight. It's the ultimate insurance policy for him and the ultimate liability for us. Why does this matter to us, the homesteaders and preppers? Well, the people just trying to grow our own food and be left alone are who actually need to worry, because instability is the enemy of the supply chain. If a peace deal is signed that relies on U.S. troops, the markets might rally for a day, but the underlying tension will be higher than ever. One incident, one false flag, one mistake, and we go from peace to full mobilization overnight. We've seen what fear of war does to energy prices. We've seen what it does to fertilizer costs. We've seen how quickly the government loves to print money to fund these foreign adventures. And this is the trap. They tell you that peace is at hand, while simultaneously moving pieces for a much larger, much more dangerous conflict. And while they discuss sending our troops thousands of miles away to guard a foreign border, who is guarding the stability of our economy here? Who is securing our grid and making sure it doesn't have any issues? This news should be a wake-up call. Do not get complacent just because you hear the word negotiation. Use this time. If the world takes a breath before the next plunge, you use that breath to get your house in order. Top off the pantry, check your water filtration, and ensure that your communications are set up. Because if America boots hit the ground in Ukraine, the clock doesn't stop. It actually speeds up. So that's the situation in Ukraine, and it's pretty dire. I think. I think if we actually do end up putting troops on the ground, then it can be a huge issue. And so I really, I don't know. I get it, right? I get why we need to do it, but it just puts us at risk so much, and I don't like the idea. I really don't like the idea at all. So there's that. All right. Oh, if you no, I don't want to do that on the live stream. What the heck? Weird. Sorry, I've been having so many issues this morning. I wouldn't be surprised if this isn't going out. All right. Well, so the last topic that I really feel like is a potential issue for everybody here, and that is Venezuela, right? So we talk a lot about on this channel about a thin veneer. Oh, this isn't playing of civilization, and how quickly things can go snap when the lights go out or the trucks stop running. Well, usually we talk about that in context of natural disasters or grid failures, but right now we are watching a deliberate man-made collapse being engineered in real time. If you thought the situation in Venezuela was old news, you are missing the massive escalation that just happened. We are seeing a playbook unfold that every prepper needs to study. We have reports of CIA attacks inside the country, massive seizures of energy assets on the high seas, and lethal military strikes in the Pacific. The siege is tightening, and the fallout isn't going to stay in South America. Excuse me. All right. So first, let's look at the shadow war. Reports are confirming that the Trump administration has opened a new phase in its campaign against Venezuela, specifically utilizing CIA attacks inside Venezuelan territory. For a prepper, this is a critical lesson in gray zone warfare. And before the tanks roll in, the infrastructure is targeted from the inside. Sabotage, disruption, and the breaking of internal chains of command. And you ask, well, this is a tax on the drug boats, right? Well, yes, but what you may not know and what isn't publicly talked about a whole heck of a lot is the fact that Maduro is actually in charge of the drug cartels in Venezuela. And so when we attack the cartels and their infrastructure, we are attacking, in effect, Maduro, the president of Venezuela. So if you were to live in Venezuela, how would you be able to distinguish between a natural grid failure and a deliberate attack? Well, the answer is that you really can't. You have to be ready for both. So while the CIA works the inside, the U.S. government is strangling the outside. And we just got word that the U.S. has seized another giant oil tanker, making that 3 this week, or 3 total as of this week, rather. These ships were carrying Venezuelan oil, which is the lifeblood of their economy. Oil out there in Venezuela is huge for them. And they actually had to stop and start ramping down production of said oil because they have nowhere to send it and nowhere to store it. So these oil tankers didn't just turn around when the U.S. forces got them. The U.S. forces seized them. They took these assets. So think about the precedent this sets. In a globalized world, your access to energy, to heating oil, to diesel, to gasoline, relies on these ships moving freely. When world power starts seizing energy shipments on the open ocean, the global market gets incredibly volatile. If they can seize a tanker off the coast of Venezuela, they can disrupt supply chains anywhere. And when supply drops, the price at your pump goes up. And you can see here some of some more of the, um, yeah, those running boats blowing up. They're pretty good. It's sad, unfortunately, because people are dying, but they're all really bad people. Promise. At least that's what they're telling us. So the U.S. military, actually, and the big thing here, the big thing is that we'll talk about in a second here, but the U.S. just confirmed another strike on a suspected drug vessel in the Pacific Ocean that left one person dead. They label it a drug vessel, and it probably was. In the fog of warfare, the line between counter narcotics and naval blockade is razor thin, and we're seeing a convergence. Covert ops in the ground, economic seizures at the sea, and kinetic strikes in the water. This is what total war looks like in the 21st century, before a formal declaration is ever signed. So, why does a homesteader in Ohio or a prepper in Texas care about Venezuelan tankers? Because this is a reminder that energy independence is the only true security. Nations rely on imports. Systems rely on fragile shipping lanes. And if you are relying on the global market to keep your house warm this winter or your generator running, you are gambling on geopolitics. The people of Venezuela are sitting on the largest oil reserves in the world, and they are starving and out of gas because of that political warfare. So don't be like a nation that relies on imports. Store your own fuel, build your solar arrays, season your firewood. When the giants start fighting over the tankers, the little guys get crushed. Make sure that you are not the one getting crushed. Keep your eyes on the headlines, but keep your hands busy on the homestead. So, I mean, Venezuela is a tough one, right? So I switch back here. It is a really good one. I I honestly I don't know what I believe, you know, to be fair. So it's a tough call. But I I do want to say one thing here before I continue on the commentary is talk about ground news. So this I don't know why I have viewer count. There you go. So this is a great website where I do all of my research. They, you know, it's more than they talk about their bias and um, truth, source finder. But I honestly I find that the biggest part of this is they do that bias, distribution and ownership and stuff on the right side of the screen there. But you know what the best part is? The summary. They do a summary of all of these news articles. And if you have center selected here, it's just a good, unbiased summary of the news story. It's actually really good. And so I hope you guys can listen to what they have to say here.
The news is divided. Ground news puts it back together. So you can see how many sources are reporting on any breaking story, where they fall on the political spectrum, how reliable they are, and who owns them. Compare headlines and read full articles to see which details are prioritized, exaggerated, or left out entirely. Because the more we understand the media, the more we'll understand each other. Visit ground.news to learn more.
If you guys are interested, they do have a link in the description below, and you can check them out. That definitely helps the channel. But so that's really the news stories for this week that I really wanted to cover, because I mean those are the big ones, right? Venezuela, Ukraine, and the Minnesota daycare, which is crazy. So make sure you are preparing as usual, keeping all of your supplies, all of that stuff ready to go just in case for any reason, right? I mean, heck, China could pop off, and we just don't even know it, right? So I'll go to articles that I think are interesting here that I might have missed when researching this. And speaking of China, China announces it successfully completed Taiwan military maneuvers. So, this is, yeah, just military exercises aiming at asserting their sovereignty over Taiwan, right? Um, and just it's basically a planning a Taiwan invasion. That's what it is. Exactly. So that's super interesting. Missed that one there. That was just recently. I missed it. But let's see. Freezing childcare funds in Minnesota. Yep. That's what we talked about earlier. That's where I got the majority of the info for the what I talked about before. Mali and Burkina Faso travel ban on U.S. citizens. Yep, that's not a huge surprise. They yeah. Niger announced a similar ban and a bunch in response to Trump administration's move to impose restrictions on their citizens. Yeah, well, that's because they foster terrorism, but whatever. Let's see here. Anything else? Ooh, that's interesting to me, but it doesn't look like it. Another drug. This is the last drug vote strike that we just talked about in earlier, right? On December 29th, 2 days ago. So, yeah, killed 2 people. Okay. Yep. So, that's the big stuff, right? Ooh. Trump Art Epstein from Mar-a-Lago after 2003 spa employee. Oh, so yeah. Um, so let's talk Epstein for a second, right? I think a lot of the liberals are coming out and saying, and especially the Democrats in the House and Congress are coming out saying, well, there's pictures of Trump and Epstein. There's pictures, right? And then Trump's coming out and saying, no, I banned him, right? Because I didn't like what he was doing. I didn't like the guy after, a while. So they're going to have pictures with him when he liked him. Well, so this is actually pretty good because this is from the Wall Street Journal saying that Trump barred Epstein from Mar-a-Lago in 2003, which is the Wall Street Journal is a fairly, I would say, left-leaning. This calls it center news source, but for them to report that is a pretty good thing. So that's good. All right. Ooh, Trump issues his first vetoes. Oh, what did I do there? I don't know. I opened two. Returned HR 131, arguing it burdens the administration is committed to preventing American taxpayers from funding. Yep. Deliver water. Oh, I don't know. Something about delivering water. And I can't see because I can't close this. Sorry. It's behind my camera. Oh my gosh. I don't know how to close. Can I do that? Oh, I'll do that for now. Anyhow, that is the majority of what I have today. Sorry for all of the issues. I have no idea. I think honestly, I think my Ethernet cable is going out because it'll work for a bit. Oh, yeah. Now, oh, that's beautified. Let me check Ethernet. Yeah, Ethernet is not connected, So I have no idea. It works sometimes and it doesn't work other times. I've tried different ports, so it's either my adapter is going out or my plug. So I'll have to try and plug my this line into something else and see if it works, I guess. That's the next step. So that happened. So normally I run this over a Speedify connection, which is like ties in my my Wi-Fi or my internet at home, the Starlink with the internet on my phone as a hotspot to create so there's no issues because Starlink is not usually the most reliable. So I don't know. I'll do some testing this morning and figure it out and see what it is. But that's why I was a little bit late. And then also, I don't know why. I have no idea why it won't let me stream onto Facebook directly. That is strange. And because I'm looking at my account settings here and it's fine. And so I don't know. I'll have to take a look. But anywho, I really appreciate you guys joining us today. It really means a lot. If this was interesting to you and you got some good, oh man, I forgot a hat. Whoops. Oh well. If this was interesting to you, please make sure to share it. Put it on your Facebook, share it with your friends. We usually do this every Saturday morning at 8 a.m. This was just a special one because it's the last day of the year and wanted to get this out there, but I'll do one on Saturday morning as well, the 3rd of January. So thank you guys very much. Make sure to share this with your family and friends. If you're on Facebook and you came from Facebook, this will be back on Facebook on Saturday. So thank you guys very much. I appreciate it, and we'll talk to you soon.